Good morning, or depending on when you're watching this, good afternoon, good evening, or good night. My name's Ross, and as always, told out of Voice of Radio. So today we need to talk about one of the weirdest, dumbest, and most fun decks that I've seen coming around in a while. It's got won a tournament over in Japan, and I know I'm not going to sit here and pretend that it's won a gigantic tournament and it's the best deck in the format, but I absolutely am going to pretend that it is a good deck, a fun deck, and I'm willing to bet a deck that is not currently on your radar. And I would like to change that because it is an Onix deck. Okay, it does play Steelix as well, but really it's an Onix deck. It all comes from the attack Thumpalanche. Great name for an attack, incidentally. This is a 1 from 151, and for 2 energy, you discard the top 5 cards of your deck and deal 80 damage for each Pokemon with a retreat cost of exactly 4 that you discarded in this way. So the goal here is very simple. We want to try and make sure that we are discarding a bunch of Pokemon with a retreat cost of exactly 4 so we can do a huge amount of damage. You get rid of 3, you're doing 220, because let's make no bones about this, you're going to be using double turbo. So you get rid of 3, you're doing 220, job's a good one. That's going to get your Pokemon V, a lot of EXs, but not all. There are a lot around at the moment that do hit up to 230, which is annoying. But then, you know, if you get 4, then that's 300 damage, and 5, that's 380, and you're like, oh yeah, no, that's everything. At that stage, you're KOing everything. And I love this. It's a card. Now, this one has been on my radar for a while. I've just not yet seen anybody that could actually make it work. And I'm hoping very much that this is essentially bucking the trend, that this is the one where we can turn around and go, oh yeah, no, that's actually really good. Now, we do actually play Steelix here as well, because we're playing Onix anyway. Steelix has a retreat cost of 4. We are not playing anything that doesn't have a retreat cost of 4. If it doesn't have a retreat cost of 4, it's not going in the deck. But Steelix has a retreat cost of 4, and it has a single energy attack that does 130. It also does 30 to each of your bent, which is honestly largely irrelevant. But single energy 130, and this is actually really nice. Because what this does, and I'm showing you the artwork rare here for obvious reasons, it's phenomenal. But what this does here really nicely is it gives you a nice single energy option where you don't need to do huge damage to take out a giant Pokemon. Where you can just have a stage 1 for a single energy, doing a little bit of damage, and just for now, that's good enough. And you know what? Yeah, I actually really like that. That makes me kind of happy, because it means that if we don't need to do a huge amount of damage, we can take things a bit easier, use far fewer resources to go and get a KO, and use the lovely artwork rare while we're here. And as a man who loves single energy stage 1 Pokemon, this has also been on my radar for a while. Why did I not put this together? I don't know, maybe I should have. So that's generally the theory here. You've got Steelix where you don't need to do a huge amount of damage, an Onix where you do, and actually there's only 4 basic Pokemon in this deck. In the entire deck, there are 4 basic Pokemon. They are Onix, which will mean that you'll give your opponent a few mulligans. Think back to what happened in Game 2 of the World Championship Finals, when our world champion Fernandez Fuentes was playing only Iron Thorns and nothing else. They mulliganed a bunch. But you know what? It means you're going to have a good starter. And honestly, all the rest of the Pokemon in the deck are basically irrelevant. Like, it doesn't really matter what they are, because they're never hitting the board. Because we're not playing anything that can use. So nominally here, we're using Rhydon and Rhyperior, which is cool. But we're not playing any Rhyhorn here, so we can't use them. We're using Gyarados EX. We're using Venusaur EX. We're using Copperajah EX. We're using Golem EX. We are using Tyranitar EX. We're using Regigigas V Star. We're using Heatran V Max. And we're using Melmetal VMAX. But they're all used, I'll show you at the end, they're all used in weird numbers. We're playing like 2 Golem and 2 Copperajah, for instance. And I love both of those Pokemon, but I can't see a reason to play 2 of each rather than 4 of one. We're just messing around a bit, playing what we want to play. But the point is, we want to be playing a bunch of 4 retreat Pokemon. There's 24 4 retreat Pokemon other than your Onix and your Steelix. And honestly here, I don't think it really matters how they're spread out. We've just got 24 Pokemon with a retreat cost of 4. So what else have we got here? Well, we need a bunch of stuff to actually make this work. Obviously, in terms of the energy, we've got double turbo. We're playing 4 of them. That's the main one here. And then we've got a couple of metal energy so that we can use Steelix's attack. It's largely an Onix deck, don't get me wrong, but it would be a little bit silly here if we didn't at least allow for the fact that, you know, we kind of want to be able to play some Steelix here if we need to. Obviously, Super Rod becomes a pretty big deal here because you're only playing 4 of your Onix and 4 of your Steelix. So, you know, being able to get them back when they get KO'd might be kind of important here, so you don't literally run out of Pokemon. Energy Lotto becomes a really nice card here because we need to search out our energy. We actually need to get it into our hand. And it's not a proper search, it's a look at the top 7 cards of your deck kind of card. But it will get you double turbo as well, so being able to get that's actually pretty nice. And we're also playing the new Colress card here. We're actually playing Colress's Tenacity, lets you search for a stadium and an energy. Yeah, you could argue that that makes you more vulnerable to Kyurem, but you're not playing any weak, low HP basic Pokemon here anyway, so Kyurem becomes less of an issue. We're also playing 4 Pokegear here, and I should mention that Colress is your main supporter. Go and get yourself a stadium and an energy. This is the only supporter we're playing 4 of. This is your number 1 supporter here. So we're kind of playing Pokegear so that we can get this regularly. Seems a little bit weird, but it totally works. And part of that is because you're also getting a stadium. And one of the main stadiums here we're getting is Artisan. Artisan lets you go and grab a non-rule box Pokemon and put it on your bench. Or basic Pokemon. And obviously this is to go and get the rest of your Onix. So essentially you're using Colress to guarantee that you've got an energy with which to attack, while also going to get an Artisan, which will get you a second Onix, which will mean that you're actually able to keep the pressure up here so that, again, you don't run out of Pokemon. Because here's something that needs to be stated that I don't think I've made clear enough yet, so let me make it clear now. Turn 2 going first, you're attacking here. You don't need anything but an Onix and a double turbo energy. And obviously, if you're playing 4 Colress's Tenacity and you're playing 4 Pokegear, your chance of turn 1 Colress is high. Very, very high. So you go second, hit a Colress, go and get your double turbo, and just give it a go. Your expected damage here is about 180 a turn. Now, it's never going to actually be 180, just to be clear. It's either going to be 140 because you've hit 2, or it's going to be 220 because you've hit 3, but your expectation, about half your deck is for retreat Pokemon. There's the 24 random ones, plus your 4 Onix and your 4 Steelix is 32, but you start with an Onix and you search one out with your early Artisan, and I'm being a little bit loose with numbers here, but it's roughly half your deck is Pokemon, so you expect to hit roughly 2.5 Pokemon, which means you've got roughly, and again, I am being rough here, but you got a 50% chance of hitting 140, and you got a 50% chance of hitting 220, so your expected damage here is about 180 a turn, without doing anything else or getting clever. And that's kind of ridiculous. I adore this. Turn 1 going second, you should be getting a KO on almost anything. Because there's one other stadium you play here. It's Nighttime Academy. Now, it's only played as a one-of, and if you've only got one Onix, you have to go to get Artisan and get a second Onix so you don't get bent super early. Although, against some decks, if you know a turn 1 attack or turn 2 attack isn't coming, you can be a bit looser here. But Nighttime Academy lets you put a card from your hand on top of your deck, at which point you can put a 4 retreat Pokemon on top of your deck. You should have one in hand. At which point, you're really looking at the top 4 cards of your deck. You should hit at least 2, and you should be getting 220 damage, turn 1 going second. You can only do this if you've got enough Onix that you don't need an Artisan. For what it's worth, the other supporter card you play here is Arven. Goes and gets you a tool and an item card. Your item can be Energy Lotto if you're desperate for energy, obviously. And the tool here, we're only actually playing one tool. We're playing it as a 2-of. It's Luxurious Cape. Gives an extra 100 HP to a non-rule box Pokemon. Now, it does mean you give up an extra prize when KO'd, but the theory here is you've basically got a 220 HP Onix, or potentially 280 HP Steelix, and you're basically out of range. You don't mind giving up an extra prize, because the reality is, if 4 Onix go down, you've probably lost the game anyway. Like, I know we're playing super odd, but if 4 Onix go down, you've probably lost. So giving up an extra prize or 2 with this isn't a big deal. And honestly, if you're getting 2 hit KO'd because of the cape and 1 hit KO'd without it, it doesn't matter if they 2 hit KO you for 2 prizes, rather than KO you twice in a row for 2 prizes. It's basically the same. The difference is you get to keep your Pokemon in the active, you get to keep your energy, etc. You have to be careful when you use this, but if this can buy you a turn without having to do any extra setup, that's honestly kind of a win. Oh, and your ace spec here is Secret Box. And I love that your ace spec is Secret Box. I think Secret Box is great. And I know it doesn't work in every deck. This can obviously be grabbed with Arb, and I'm sure you kind of figured that one out by now. But I love it in this particular deck. You discard 3 cards from your hand, but that's fine. Any 4 retreat Pokemon in your hand are basically pointless. And you search for an item card, a tool card, a supporter card, and a stadium card. Yeah, that's going to get you completely set up. I know it doesn't get you an energy, but it gets you either an Energy Lotto or a Colress's Tenacity, either of which will get you an energy. You'll be fine. I have a lot of faith. Here's the deck list as a whole. You'll notice there is 1 copy of Boss's Orders I've not mentioned yet. That's fairly standard. And again, the 4 retreat Pokemon here don't matter. There's 24 of them. Play whichever ones make you happier. It's really irrelevant. There's nothing in the deck that makes it worth playing one over another. It's just personal preference. Just make sure they're not basic. You do not want any basic Pokemon other than Onix, or else you might start with them and that would be bad. And the goal of this deck is simple. You really want to go second. This is the deck we're going second. It's huge. And then you just smash. From turn 1, you're using Onix's attack, and you just go. And you basically rush your opponents so that they lose. I'm going to test this. I love this. It is hyper aggressive. Looks like fun. I'm in. But I want to know what you think. So let me know in the comment section, would ya? Go nuts! Be nice. And then make sure you like this video, subscribe to this channel, follow me on Twitter at @TheWasi. That's where we talk about Pokemon and a whole bunch of other card games. And please do consider checking out patreon.com/PTCGradio, where you can support the channel, get some bonus podcasts, join a Discord, and all kinds of fun things. And get shoutouts on the channel, like the lovely Ray of Light, who's been a supporter card for a while now and is a very lovely person. So shout out to them for the support and the loveliness. But by far the most important thing, as always, look after yourselves till next time, would ya? Thank you very much for watching. My name's Ross, and you've been watching PTCG Radio.